Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Leah Bonvasuto. I'm the founder of Present Voices. And today I am here with my friend and colleague, Meredith Fineman, who is the author of the brand new book, Brag Better, Master the Art of Fearless Self-Promotion. How wonderful. And I have been reading this book. I am loving this book.
Thank
It
you.
is so relevant for this moment. It is so necessary for us to brag. And I'd love to begin by asking you, Meredith, tell us who you are and a bit about you and why you wrote this book.
Okay, I am Meredith Fineman. I am the author of Brag Better, Master the Art of Fearless Self-Promotion, which is out June 16th with Portfolio at Penguin Random House. I do a lot of different things, but I've been a freelance writer for about 15 years. I write about business, entrepreneurship, how women's issues, sometimes how all those intersect. I have a consultancy called Fine Point, where I work with leadership, CEOs, founders, with an emphasis on women in positions of power, but not only women. I always say I'll take men's money too, on what it means to be in public and to promote yourself. So it's a mixture of leadership and professional development mixed with media relations. And then I speak and train around the country on bragging, particularly bragging in women, but not only bragging in women, and self-promotion as a skill, public relations as a weaponized skill set for career, why strategic bragging matters for you, and what it means when you don't do it is the basis of this book. And I also am an authority on sustainable fashion by way of secondhand fashion. I host a podcast called It Never Gets Old, all about resale, consignment, vintage, and that whole world. So I am based in Washington, though usually traveling for speaking and training, but certainly not right now. So, we're just doing it all digital.
I love it. I love the weaponized skill set. How wonderful. And in the book, you talk about the qualified quiet. And I want to read a quote. And you write, "We need the qualified quiet to be louder, and we need to persuade the loud ones among us to share the microphone. For too long, we have had experts without the experience and visible commentators, speakers, or leaders who haven't put in the work. The qualified quiet have put in the work and now need to brag about it. That is, they have to raise their voices and share their accomplishments." I love this idea of the qualified quiet. And can you talk about, are you part of the qualified quiet and what brought you to that term?
Sure. So that was really wild. I haven't heard anyone read my book back to me. So that was a wild first. Thank you. That was very uncanny and great. So the qualified quiet is a term that I came up with. It stems from my seeing as a media person and a publicist a really intense inverse relationship between volume and merit. And we reward loud and guaranteed, if you're watching this, and Leah, for sure, you know this too, that in any industry, in any group of people, you can think of someone who has done less work than you have or who knows less than you do, but really seems to be the one taking up space and using their voice, and that's frustrating. So the qualified quiet are people that have done the work but don't know how to talk about it. To some degree, that is all of us. And it's a strength, not a weakness. And it's particularly difficult because, we don't have a vocabulary to talk positively about professional accomplishment, which is why Brag Better exists. The writer in me wants that language to exist, but also you don't have proper role models. So I think to some degree, all of us have a bit of qualified quiet in ourselves. I feel like I've beat it out of myself at this point because I also literally wrote a book on bragging. But sometimes I can still feel that way. I know my stuff, but I'm afraid to say it. Or someone else who I see, I'm hey, why is that person on the panel and not me? And, just those sorts of more superficial things. But yeah, it took me a while to find my voice and to use it and to sort of temper it with climate. And that's true in print and that's true interpersonally. So yeah, I would say I think we all identify to some degree. And it's really important to understand that you're coming from a position of power. It is what I teach is difficult, but it's not rocket science. And it's way harder to put in the time and energy and work than it is to figure out how to talk about it, which is a anxiety provoking and difficult skill, but that's what this book is here for.
Yes, yes, I love that. And I love what you said about we all have a bit of the qualified quiet within us. Yes, yes, yes. And so, what do you mean by bragging and bragging better?
So I know it's a controversial word. I am in the business of getting attention, so it's purposeful. But also, I've been using the word brag since about 2013 to anyone that would listen. It's now 2020. It's been a long time coming. And a lot of people have tried to dissuade me from using the word. It has negative connotations. But one of the problems is, and as someone who cares a lot about language, we really don't have any other words to describe the act of talking positively about yourself and your work. So if you look into brag, the definition of brag is to talk about oneself boastfully, which doesn't give you anything. And then you have boastful, which is to talk about oneself with excessive pride. And I flag that for people because that's obviously deeply subjective. It's very, it's not black and white at all. And so for me, bragging is stating true facts about your work to advance your career. I think that, and I've been very grateful in that early reviews of the book talk about what this idea of figuring out how to positively present yourself and be proud in what you've done has personal applications. My argument is that these stating of true facts in a cohesive, thoughtful, way and pitching them for whatever kind of visibility you want, whether that's an internship or a corporate board seat, is a net positive. And so bragging better is about talking about what you've done and doing so in a way that is loud, proud, and strategic, which are the three pillars of bragging better. Loud meaning, repetitive, consistent, not the volume of your voice, because that's what breaks through. Proud is difficult because that's the most feelings-based one, where you have to figure out how you're going to just be proud of yourself and the work you've done. And especially, like, all of us, I'm sure, can identify with being very ambitious and hard on ourselves. And like, that's, I think, the hardest part. And then strategic is where your audience is, depending on what you want. If it's actual outward visibility, like television or speaking, that means one thing. If it's just more recognition from your boss or from your colleagues, that's something else. So that's how I define it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And another word that I feel gets a bad rap, and you talk about in the book as well, is self-promotion. And so in this moment, and we'll get a bit meta right now, you are promoting a book that's coming out in this moment, which we're talking about. A lot of people have trouble promoting themselves in general. And I guess it's because of bragging and the connotations there. But can you talk about self-promotion and what that means in this moment?
Yeah, so I think that it gets a bad rap, which, like, publicists are in the, which I am, are in sort of the business of changing perception. So this is a big PR campaign for bragging. I think that self-promotion gets a bad rap because people don't know how to do it, because we don't have proper role models, because layers of gender and race have a lot to do with bragging, and who pays attention to and which voices we choose to listen to and what our society listens to. There are a lot of structural factors here at play, which, like, I don't know how much time you have to discuss all of those different things, and I only had so many pages in the book. But publishing in a pandemic is wild. The book comes out June 16th. It was supposed to come out May 19th. I feel very grateful it's coming out at all, and that I think that actually this moment, promoting of your work and your skill set in a time of deep uncertainty and joblessness and people on the job hunt that didn't think they would be, is just going to become even more essential than I already think it is. I think that it is massive opportunity. And also, people don't know what you've done until you tell them. And so you could call it self-promotion, or you could call it stating true facts about your work to help yourself and also those around you. I did about 30 new interviews for this book, from Susan Cain to Cindy Gallup to Kimberly Drew to Gia Tolentino, talking about how visibility has impacted them, what they do around voice and varying aspects of this. But I think that it is essential for your work, but also your help in the work of others. When we're in an emergency situation too, everyone is especially not good at listening. And that's fair. So I actually wrote in quarantine an extra chapter on how to brag better from home and online, which became very clear to me as soon as all this happened. And I was like, I have a whole section in my book on handshakes. That is available for free on the Brag Better website in PDF and audio. And you'll drop links or whatever, but yeah, things have changed really rapidly. So you have to tell people what you've done because you also aren't with them. So it's a pretty wild time. Brag Better is not only for women, and I did that intentionally because I wanted to have a very wide audience, but also for men to realize some of the obligations they have to echo the voices of others. But also there are definitely men who need this book too, not as many, but some. So I think that is just really crucial.
And what is it societally or personally that gets in the way of us sharing those accomplishments? Like, is it because we're so inside our own stories, or is it something more structural, like you said, or more societal?
So it's all of the above. There are a lot of societal and structural factors for women. Everything in patriarchy basically tells you to be quiet and look pretty. And positive attributes are associated with passive behaviors. She was demure, she was shy, she was coy. And then also, it's really scary to be a woman who decides to put herself out there because you're judged on metrics and men are not. You're policed from your voice to your ankles. And then there's very real danger associated with being a woman in public, like actual physical danger. And, there are a lot of layers to this too, that being someone we listen to and being someone whose voice is heard or allowed is deeply intertwined with privilege. And particularly when it comes to, like, one of the most important things about bragging better is, yes, doing so for yourself, but also doing so for others. And if you are someone we listen to, or if you have a shred of privilege in being a voice we listen to, that it is part of your job to pass that microphone and amplify the voices of other people and bring them into the fold. And I think that it's a very collaborative thing, and more collaborative, I think, than it sounds.
I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you. And so, Meredith, where can people find you? Where can they find the book, and where can they find more about your work?
Well, so Brag Better is on sale wherever you get books, whether it's the big guy or supporting your local bookstores. I'm trying to figure out how to do signed copies. So the website is brag-better.com, but you can find all about me at meredithfineman.com. I'm on all of the social medias at Meredith Fineman. The book is on all of the social medias at Brag Better. And so really any form is best. And, thank you for buying the book or sharing with other people, or just downloading the free chapter and learning from there. I've written about these things before. I know a book is a purchase, and I'm grateful for that. So that's all about me.
It's fantastic, Meredith. Thank you so much for having this conversation today.